Thank you for tuning in. You're watching the Property Guide in ET Now. I hope you had a good start to the new year. This show is your one-stop guide to all property investments in the country. Remember, if you have any feedback or questions on buying a home, getting a home loan, or a legal roadblock, feel free to write to us. Our email ID is at the bottom of your screen. We have a really exciting show lined up for you this week. First of all, the central government has issued an ordinance to amend the land acquisition bill. Which market will benefit the most? Mumbai's ready-reckoner rates are hiked by almost 40%. What does this mean for your home purchases? And we'll answer questions you sent in about Pune and Hyderabad. Joining us in the studio this week, Ramesh Nair, CEO and International Director at JLL India. Ramesh, thank you for coming in. And of course, Jayashree Kurup, Head of Content and Research at magicbricks.com. Jayashree joins us in our Noida studio. I want to give our viewers a quick idea of what we're talking about. We know the Union government has approved an ordinance to amend the Land Acquisition Act. Now, this is something the realty and the construction industry was really waiting for. This ordinance makes significant changes to the Act, including the removal of the consent clause for acquiring land and the social impact assessment. Now, this will happen in 5 areas of construction: industrial corridors, PPP projects, rural infrastructure, affordable housing, and defence. Now, several state governments have, of course, welcomed the modification of the bill. There's strong opposition growing day by day. But what we want to find out is what impact it will have on the realty sector, and by that extension, what impact will it have on our housing investments. But Ramesh, before we get into the pure capitalist point of view of how industry will benefit and how realty will benefit, I want to ask you simply this: the 2 main changes that were made. One is the social impact clause. Now, the social impact clause basically meant that before you use or repurpose any land, you have to find out all of the people who will be impacted by this change. So that's not just someone who owns the land, but someone who might be working there who will lose their job as a result. That entire need has just been removed altogether in an ordinance, not in a bill, which means it hasn't been tabled in Parliament. What is your view of these changes, removing the consent clause and removing that study that needed to be done to find out who's been impacted by this change?
It's very well welcomed by the industry as such. I'm speaking on behalf of
it is welcomed by the industry. Yes.
So the 2 main aspects there which impacts the real estate industry is obviously the industrial corridors part and public-private partnerships, also the affordable housing. All these 3 have significant impact on the realty sector. We believe this will get in a lot more land into the overall development fray in all major cities.
Okay, so I want to bring you back to something. So if we look at it objectively, and I'm not completely satisfied by the fact that social impact assessment has been removed, but if we look at it objectively, housing for the poor, that can be quantified, industrial corridors, rural infrastructure for electrification, defense, PPP has not been quantified as to what this would mean. So at what point, or what will be the government's extent of ownership in this public-private partnership project that they're talking about? They've just said that all PPPs will be covered under this particular move. Now, is that something that you think is a positive move? Do you think the government should actually give us more clarity on what they mean when they say PPP here?
Definitely, that is definitely required. Otherwise, it can always be misused. I think the state governments need to have various amendments to these rules, which make sure that people don't misuse this acts and end up doing a 5% PPP with the state government and 95% with private partners.
All right, I want to bring Jayashree in here. Jayashree, I have the same question for you. There was a lot of complaints when the previous government had brought in their land acquisition bill that it was far too one-sided, from the point of view of the landowners. Is there a possibility that this particular amendment or ordinance is completely at the other side, that it doesn't take into account at all the people who will be impacted by any sort of repurposing of land, and perhaps also it might leave a lot of room to be misused?
Yes, Faye. Actually, in land, I think one of the Ramesh also mentioned this. This is a broad one. I agree with you. It veers to the other side, but there are many levels in between. When a centre passes an act, and land being a state subject, there are lots of amendments that need to be done by the states, and the issues on the ground can be tackled at the state level, and if the states pass the suitable corollaries to that, and that's really important. And I think if the states take that on, it's a good thing to do, because a lot of projects have been stalled because of land disputes, the problems of land acquisition and so on.
Well, Ramesh, if I were to ask you, obviously this is, if you're going seesawing from one end to another, is there a model existing in the country right now that you believe is as close to the middle ground or being fair to both ends as possible?
I think the market value approach can be fine-tuned, wherein farmers also make a lot of money. During the 2007 and 8, when a lot of large developers in the country, the top 10 developers in the country had around 60,000 acres at that time. Yes. During that time, a lot of farmers made money. It was not just the middlemen or land aggregators or developers who were making money. A lot of farmers also made money. What we need to remember is more than 1 million people are getting into the job market every month. So we are talking of like a 10 million people getting, nearly 10 million people getting into the job market every year. And for that, the country needs to industrialize. There's so much of hype being created around Make in India. I think if we don't fix this act, that's only going to be a dream.
But what I want to understand from both of you is this, and I'm going to start with Jayashree here. Jayashree, from what we've seen in the changes right now, we know that Maharashtra, the government of Maharashtra cheered this on, and that for obvious reasons. But tell us what markets you expect to start ticking immediately to take advantage of the change and to start, showing some sort of movement on the ground.
I think the first markets will be the ones where there is land on the periphery of the city. The city can expand there, and you will see those, where there is land for acquisition, which they can integrate into the city. Cities that are already in the urban sprawl, I think the industrial corridors that come up, that is where you're going to see some more activity happening. For instance, if you take the Delhi-Mumbai industrial corridor, Bhiwadi, Neemrana, these are all near the corridor. The corridor hasn't taken off for a long time, and land clearly was a big issue. If I expect a lot of action to happen along those planned corridors, because that has been clearly spelled out within the purview of the Act.
Ramesh, so Jayashree mentioned Bhiwadi, Neemrana, obviously Ahmedabad sitting, as a massive nodule on the DIMC, the Delhi-Mumbai Industrial Corridor. Do you agree that these are the main markets that will see moves, or do you want to add to that list?
I'll agree with Jayashree. I'll add two more cities. I think the two most industrialized big cities, Pune and Chennai, will also benefit because both these cities have a lot of inherent manufacturing advantages, whether it's the right quality engineering talent, whether it's the right quality supplier base, whether the right quality government support. I think these two cities will benefit the most.
So tell me this, if I'm a pure real estate investor at this point, should this ordinance and the fact that we've now just created this list, should this change my strategy for this year? Should I be looking perhaps at these industrial corridors for an investment instead of the big cities that we normally talk about?
I think one should look at the industrial corridors, but closer to the big cities. Okay. So if you're looking at the Chennai-Bangalore industrial corridor, now that's a 300-kilometer stretch. There's no point going and buying land in the middle. One should look at closer to Chennai or closer to Bangalore. So that's what I would recommend.
Well, Ramesh, the connected question obviously at this point will be for those of our viewers who are invested in IT corridors. And up till now, over the last 5 years, that's what everybody did. There's no mention here at all of the services industries. And this is fair because we know that the government is focusing on manufacturing. What does something like this mean for large IT corridors or for large IT parks or for land acquisition in those areas?
I think it's only a matter of time before industrial corridors get converted into white-collar IT corridors. We've seen that in many parts of the country. If you look at Whitefield, it used to be an industrial corridor. If you look at Old Mabalipuram Road, again an old industrial belt. Gindi in Chennai, again an industrial belt. GST Road, again an industrial belt. So a lot of these industrial corridors, over a period of time, it could be 5, 10, 15 years, become white-collar IT corridors. But one needs to wait and be patiently looking at that market.
All right. So if you've invested in the IT corridors, there's no reason to worry right now. No. Okay, so we just talked about the land acquisition ordinance, but if you have any questions about it, feel free to write to us. Our email ID is at the bottom of your screen. Remember, a quick recap of the markets we talked about. Bhiwadi, Neemrana, Ahmedabad on the Delhi-Mumbai Industrial Corridor, Pune and Chennai as industrial hubs. Welcome back. You're watching Property Guide in ET now. Thank you for staying with us. Both Ramesh and Jayashree are with us as well. We're talking about ready reckoner rates. Now, home buyers in Mumbai recently found out that buying a home is going to become even more tougher. The cash-strapped Maharashtra government have sharply increased the ready reckoner rates. Now, to give you a quick understanding of what these rates are, when you buy a home, when you register it, there is a value that the government attaches to that home to make sure that you are registering the true value of that home. So you're not allowed to register a home at less than the ready reckoner rate. The government has now, in an attempt to increase the taxes it collects, increased the ready reckoner rates by anywhere between 15 to 20%. In some parts of the city, it's up almost 40%. Now we know that there's about 50 months of inventory piling up in the city. What impact will this move have on the market in Mumbai? Ramesh, now if I'm buying a home, I'm obviously going to assume that the ready reckoner rates only comes into play while I'm registering my own purchase. But that's not true. It comes into play at separate areas in the back end as well when the builder is buying land and constructing, doesn't it?
Yeah. So if you look at the positives, obviously we have the difference between the ready reckoner rates and the actual market prices. For that, it's definitely a good thing. Second is it kind of gives the government some money to further invest in infrastructure. Third is it will also help in reducing black money. But let's look at it from a developer's point of view. One, when he's buying land, obviously everything is not accounted for, so he'll end up paying more. So stamp duty will be charged on that. Second is when he's buying fungible FSI. The Maharashtra got in the rules of fungible FSI in 2011. So fungible FSI is calculated at 60% of the ready reckoner rates. So now he's going to be paying more for that. And thirdly, again, when the buyer is buying an apartment, his stamp duty, again, he's going to be paying more because now the guideline value of the ready reckoner rates have gone up. If you're looking at the last 1 year, like you mentioned, unsold inventory is at an all-time high. We're talking of 37 months. Although the prices really went up since 2009, we've seen an 89% price increase, which has made it unaffordable for people, because of which sales velocity has drastically dropped. So developers who are already getting hit by increasing unsold inventory are further going to get impacted with this increase in ready reckoner rates. Again, if you look at in many parts, it's actually gone as high as 40%, although as an average, it's gone up only 15% in the city.
You know, this is the interesting thing. The thing that anybody will sit up and ask you about what you just said is that if we have a situation where people are not buying and where inventory is piling up, how did we go up 80% in prices over the last couple of years? So what's driving up these prices?
See, again, if you look at it, this is a market where it's very investor driven and speculator driven. A lot of developers in the city sell products before launch at 20% discount to the investors and long-term investors and speculators. Now, they don't want them to get upset. So that price increase has to be artificially maintained, because if that price is dropped, these investors and speculators will get out of the market, thereby bringing down the prices further. So that's the way the market operates. It's unique, but developers just don't feel like dropping the prices down.
All right, pass the parcel, eventually someone's going to be left holding it. Jayashree, I want to bring you in here. In terms of consumer sentiment, we know that in Mumbai, like Ramesh was just pointing out, there is a general opinion that the prices are too high, that they're unaffordable, that, you know, we're just not going to buy at these prices. Now, given the fact that the government has actually made this conscious move to increase prices even further, what does this mean for consumer sentiment in the city and also for the possibility of any sales beginning to tick again?
This quarter is when consumer sentiment has been at its lowest. Our consumer housing sentiment index that we do with IIM Bangalore, which is being released in a week or so, all cities have shown a drop in sentiment. And now look at the flip side of it. The three biggest cities, Delhi, Mumbai, Bangalore, all three have increased their circle rates, ready reckoner rates, guidance values. So essentially what's happening is that the policy makers are completely out of sync with the consumer sentiment. I think just randomly raising guidance values and the ready reckoner rates is not going to add to the government kitty, but the way it's being handled across cities seems to be very immature.
But Ramesh, I want to ask you the question that a lot of viewers are probably thinking at this point, especially if you live in Mumbai. The point about Mumbai is that homes are so expensive. And right now they're probably sitting back thinking, I'm never going to be able to afford a house in this city at all. What advice would you give someone who's looking to buy a home for end use in this city, constantly feeling like they're behind the wave or missing the bus or unable to catch up with the prices?
I would currently suggest someone looking for affordable housing to actually wait and watch. The reason being the government has a number of planned infrastructure initiatives wherein there would be a lot of land released across, whether it's on the northern side, whether it's on the Navi Mumbai side, whether it's on the Panvel, Dombivli, all those belts, there would be a lot of land getting released. And I think once supply picks up, automatically prices will have to correct, and that's the right time to look out for and buy.
When you say wait and watch, how long are we talking about?
I think in the next 6 months the state government is planning a number of infrastructure initiatives, whether it's creating new business districts, whether it's creating new growth corridors, whether it's creating new CBDs. I think all this will lead to a massive amount of supply, which would further bring down the prices.
All right. So if you're a buyer, fair enough, you waited several years so far, waited another 6 months to find out what's in the budget. And we'll be right here on this show to, hold your hand through all of that when it happens. Let's try and answer some questions that came in during the week. Manoj Kumar Charasia has written in. He wants to buy property as an investment in Mumbai with a budget of 1 crore rupees. He says, please advise whether I should look at the western suburbs, the central suburbs, or some specific projects. Ramesh, if I were to ask you to choose as an investment, of course, 1 crore rupees for either western or central right now is a tough ask. He'd have to go, fairly up north on both of those suburbs. But of the two lines, which one would you prefer as an investment?
Definitely central. Because from a price base, definitely we see more capital appreciation in central suburbs. Second is all the infrastructure initiatives which have benefited the central suburbs, whether it's the Eastern Freeway, whether it's the metro, whether it's the SELR. Third is Navi Mumbai is closer to central Mumbai, and with all those infrastructure initiatives which is going to happen in Navi Mumbai, whether it's the new airport or whether it's the Nhava Sheva Sivri Sea Link, again central suburbs will benefit. One more aspect what we have seen is there's enough good quality corporate land which is currently available in the central suburbs, which where developers could buy and build those massive integrated kind of housing complexes, which we don't have in a concrete jungle like Mumbai, where in western suburbs you're just looking at a half-acre plot or 1 acre plot, there's one massive building. Here we're talking of 15, 20, 25 acre kind of parcels of land where developers can actually build integrated complexes which has a lot of amenities, clubhouses, a lot of greenery, jogging tracks. So I think these are the 4-5 reasons why I would pick central suburbs. But although on the pricing front at 1 crore, a viewer would only get maybe a 1.5 bedroom. But if he can stretch by around 25-30 lakhs, then he could even get a 2-bedroom. My top 3 picks in that corridor, Mulund, Kanjur Marg, Bandub, Ghatkopar. In those areas, my top 3 picks would be Runwal Bliss, which is a new project which is coming up. We have Wadhwa's 2 projects. One is Address and the second is Atmosphere, and Lodha's Aurum Grand. These are definitely the top picks in that corridor.
All right, so that's on your screen right now. If you want more details about those projects, write to us. Our email ID is at the bottom of your screen. Welcome back. You're watching Property Guide in ET now. Thank you for staying with us. We're going to try and answer as many questions as we can with both Ramesh and Jayashree in the studio. Deepa Prabhu has written in. She wants to buy a 2-bedroom flat in Wakad with a budget of 50 to 60 lakh rupees. She says she works in Hinjewadi. So please tell me whether buying property in Wakad would be a wise decision. If yes, please advise on if there are some good residential projects. She's added a quick note saying she has a 4-year-old daughter. So that's obviously one of the criteria for judgment. What would you recommend she does? Is Wakad a good option for her if she's working at Hinjewadi?
Definitely Wakad is a good option, but if she's working in Hinjewadi, she can actually look at enough options within Hinjewadi itself.
In her budget though?
Yes, in that budget. If you can just stretch it by maybe 5-10 lakhs more, around 75 to 80 lakhs, We're also looking at a lot of supply in terms of IT parks in that destination. So easier to rent out. A lot of industrial activity happening in that belt, the PCMC Chakan belt. Again, both these Wakad and Hinjawadi close to Mumbai-Pune expressway. Good proximity to the industrial corridor, good educational hub. So I think all round 5,500 to 6,000 rupees per square foot, good number of projects available in that vicinity.
Okay, so Ramesh, there being like a typical real estate consultant telling you that it'll fit into your budget, just stretch your budget by 10 lakh rupees. Jayashree, do you have options for her in that area?
Faith, I see plenty of options on the site. She's looking at Wakad, and I think in Wakad she can get within her budget. She's got Sukhwani Constructions, Bhandari Associates, Fortune, Shroff Group, Vaishnavi Builders, lots of properties in the 52 to 60 lakh. But remember that when you're talking about listed values, this is a small rider I would like to tell the users. Listed values are the price that you pay for the property. The add-ons, the parking charges, the registration charges, you must always prepare for something a little more than that. Now, if you don't have that, don't look for a property that is 52 to 60 lakh. Look for something a little lower than that. But if in Wakad, between 5,000 to 5,800, you get about a 900 to about a 1,100 square feet property, and she should be able to manage. And since she has a small 4-year-old, 2 bedrooms should be sufficient for her.
In fact, especially now, Mumbai and Pune, given the added taxes, you should budget for at least 15 lakh rupees to cover all loading plus taxes. If you're looking at something in that bracket, I'd say that would be fair. Let's take another question. Abhishek has written in, he's looking to buy and move into a 3-bedroom home in Noida along the Greater Noida Expressway with a budget of 1 crore. Please suggest some good projects. Do you have anything for him, Ramesh?
So if you look at that market, we are looking at a huge amount of inventory overhang, close to 35 months of inventory overhang. Prices have gone up around 30% since 2009. Developers like Logix, ATS, Lotus Greens, these are some of the developers to look at.
We'll quickly take as many questions as possible. Anil has written in from Hyderabad. He wants to buy a 2-bedroom flat in Manikonda in Hyderabad with a budget of 40 lakh rupees. He's interested in the Gaura Hallmark project. Please let me know what approximate appreciation I can expect over the next 5 to 8 years, he says. Also, are there better projects available in that area? Jayashree, do you want to take that question?
Yeah. In the last 2 years, there has been a 11% appreciation in the Gaura project. So now estimate for yourself how much it will go up. But what I can say is that if the market conditions are right, from the launch to the first 3 years is when we see a lot of appreciation. And once the project is in the handover stage, you will see further appreciation. And the economy is picking up, the markets are picking up. So the chances are that you will get a good appreciation for this project.
All right, I'm going to take one last question. Monica has written in, she wants to buy a 3 or a 4-bedroom house with a budget of 50 to 60 lakh rupees in Gurgaon. Please give me some good locations in either old or new Gurgaon area. The budget seems a little difficult.
At 60 lakhs, you could get a 2-bedroom. At 75 to 80 lakhs, you could get a 3-bedroom. A lot of developers, Raheja developers, Ansal, BPTP, all of them have projects in that budget category.
And if you were to recommend a location within all of Gurgaon, what would that be in terms of, price appreciation, in terms of infrastructure right now?
And in that budget, Bhiwadi and Sona.
Okay, Bhiwadi and Sona as well. All right, so all of those options are on your screen, and unfortunately we've completely run out of time on the show. If you have a question for us, please feel free to write to us. Our email ID is at the bottom of your screen. Ramesh, it's always a pleasure to have you on the show. Thank you so much for spending time with us. Jayashree, of course, I love having you in the studio as well. We look forward to having you back again very soon. Thank you so much for watching.